Hey there, and today we're going to talk about how to convert an image to a vector. So you might be wondering, why is that a thing? Why are we trying to convert an image to a vector? Well, that really starts with the question of what is an image versus a vector. So an image are the four items that I have here. I thought we'd have some fun with Taylor Swift and bunny rabbits today. All right, we can see that all of these are images, and images are made up of pixels. And as I've explained on a previous video, where the topic of that is why is my image blurry, is we talked about image quality. So you can see here with these two images of Taylor Swift, once you zoom in, you can see the one on the right is getting a little bit fuzzy. That's because the one on the left has a higher image quality. It has more pixels in this image. So that's to show you what the difference is whenever we convert these two images over to vectors. So you might want to do this because you want to make one of these images especially large, and there's only so big that an image can stretch with pixels. You also might want to do this because you want to adjust the image in some way. If you're wanting to pull out a certain color, and I think that'll be illustrated more when we get to the bunny rabbit one. The number one reason that converting images to vector is going to be handy would be for logo design. So you want your logo to be a vector because you're going to do a lot of scaling with that. You want that to be a really, really strong graphic. So to start with, let's go ahead, and I've dropped all of these images into Illustrator, and we're going to click on the one here on the left and go up to Image Trace. The drop-down gives you a couple of different options here. And what I'd recommend is, depending on the type of image you have, some of these might work better for you than others. So go ahead and try out a couple and see what works well for what you're wanting to go for. And you can always undo that and try again for one that works better if it doesn't. So to start with, let's try this sketched art one. So if that's what you were going for, then that might be what you're done, but perhaps it's not. So let's undo. Let's try another one and see what happens. Let's do 3-color. And here's where it's creating those vectors. All right, so it's limited down from the multiple colors that it was down to 3, if that's the kind of thing you're going for. But maybe you really want to keep this image as close as it possibly is and convert it to those vectors. So let's try, with image trace, let's try high fidelity photo because this already has a lot of pixels in it. It's a really strong image. This will take a second. All right, so it's tracing it. All right, so you can't tell too much has changed. Let's zoom in now and see if we can tell. Yeah, so we can see where these different vector paths are now. I'm going to undo it so you can see the difference between that and the photograph. All right, so it's the photograph, and then let's try that back again, high fidelity photo. And you can see how those vector paths look. So zoomed in pretty close, we can tell a difference, but zooming out, you don't zoom very far and you can hardly tell. So this is a really, really great image to use because it's a high quality image. So the next thing you'd want to do is, you can notice it's still all kind of linked together. I can't grab any of those vectors. Is you're going to want to expand it. Expand is right up here. And expand converts these to vector paths. So you've expanded it. Now you can see where all the squiggly paths are. You could kind of see that before, whenever we zoomed in, how there were paths, but it kind of broke all that up. All right. So if I click on one, it's still all locked together. So I'm going to ungroup it. So now I can go and I can click on an individual vector. So what you might want to do is, say you wanted to get rid of all of the background here. So then you would just manually have to go in and delete all the different little vectors that you do not want in your graphic. But eventually you would then have a vectorized image of Taylor Swift that's high quality. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Again, this is a lower quality image. So let's see what happens if this was the image that we really wanted to have as a vector. I'm going to do the exact same thing with image trace and high fidelity photo. All right, it didn't take as long because the image is not as big, and you can see we didn't get nearly the amount of detail that we got before. So let's undo that. And so for this one, maybe we want to try a different format. Maybe we'll try low fidelity photo. All right, so it's a little bit smoother, but still not quite what we wanted. So with this one, what I would recommend is if you wanted to get a higher quality like the one on the left, you're going to have to get a higher quality image to work with. Otherwise, you're not going to get the detail that we had here on the left. So let's move on to the bunnies over here. These fun little illustrations, there's not nearly the amount of detail in this as you would have in a photograph. So let's try some different things with this. This is also a higher quality image on the left than the one on the right. So similar to our Taylor Swift example. So we'll do the same thing. So for this, let's go to Image Trace and let's try it with black and white logo. All right, so this would be great if actually what you needed was black and white. You hardly could tell you lost anything. It's looking pretty good. So let's undo that. Let's do and say we want to do it with 16 colors. Okay, that's looking really great too. This is probably what I would go for with this particular image. I'm going to zoom in now. And you can see there's just a little bit where these lines were straight before in the photograph. I'll undo so you can see that. They were straight before in the photograph, and now that we have gone through and created these into vectors, they're a little bit bumpy. So what you'd want to do here is expand that so you're creating that vector path, and then you're going to just manually want to go in and clean this up. So let's ungroup that. And then you would go in with the pen tool and clean this up. On a different file, I'll talk more about working very specifically with pixels and how to do that. But this gets you really close to what you want. The nice thing about with an image like this, especially converting this to vector, is say you wanted to take all of like the carrot here and you wanted to change that from the orange that it is to a different color. So let's make sure we've ungrouped that. So we're just highlighting the carrot. There we go. And we can just go up there and make that a different color. All right, so that gets you pretty close. Again, you need to go in and you would need to adjust your lines a little bit just to get it perfect the way you want it. But that would be really nice if you wanted to, say, create a couple different versions of this bunny with the carrot a different color, maybe the background or the outline or something like that different. So that would be a really powerful way to have this as a vector. Okay, and last, let's go over here to our bunny that's a little bit lower quality and see what we can do. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with him, and we'll do 16 color. All right, that got a little rough here because we started losing some of our color. You could go in and manually update this, but I think we can get a little bit closer. Let's undo. Maybe let's try a low fidelity image and see how that works. Okay, I don't feel like we lost as much with that. So now you would just want to expand that and then ungroup it. And then you could go in and you can make those individual edits to clean it up and have those straight lines. All right, so there's really 3 steps to doing this. It's first getting that high quality image, tracing it and then expanding it and then ungrouping, then adjusting the individual vector paths to how you want them, manipulate that image in a way if you need to, and then lastly, of course, save in a vector format. I covered different file formats in a different video, and so as we can know from that you want to save your vector image in either an AI, an SVG, or an EPS. So let's go ahead and do File, Save As. And let's do it as an EPS. All right, so now that is saved as a vector file format. All right, well, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can be notified when new videos are posted. Thanks.